Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Finance Junkies. We are here December 4th, 2023, 9:02 p.m. I'm here with my co-host, Carlos and Vitaly. KRIS cannot make today. He's a little bit busy, so he's not going to be able to be here. But we got 76 of you here in 20 seconds. Thank you so much for spending a night with the Finance Junkies. I think this new hat gives me a little bit of that Radio Howard Stern persona. I'm kind of.
I didn't see. Did you say 76?
No, you look a little bit like Clockwork Orange. Like you look exactly, actually, like Clockwork Orange, which you probably have never seen as well.
Clockwork Orange? Who is
Oh my God, a Clockwork Orange, Stanley Kubrick film.
Oh, by the way, Vitaly, we've got a little bit of beef before I share your coloring book screen that you want me to share.
Okay.
I have seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Okay. I watched it in the summer. It was on Netflix, and I knew it was an iconic film, so I clicked on it, and it actually kept me entertained for the first 5 minutes, and I kept watching.
And then you turned it off.
No, I kept watching. It's a good film, but like people think it's like a legendary film. Is it? Do you guys think it's legendary? Because
yeah. It's
why is it legendary? Why do you think it's legendary?
It just so encapsulates the spirit of the style of movie making and like the feeling of that 80s generation, like the mischievous 80s. Like that's what being mischievous was. Now it's just think about what a movie like that would be now if you take a day off.
Well, you wouldn't see a movie like that in theaters anymore, and it wouldn't have that same cultural impact it did on everybody who watched it back in the day. So I think we lose something by not having those big cultural moments. We only have so few of them now, right? Where everybody sort of.
You look back at some of the movies that were made in the 80s. It was such an incredible era for movie making. You have movies like that. You have movies like The Goonies. You have E.T. You have
John Hughes films. All
The Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles. It was just it was actually a really great era for movie making. And
I agree with you. I think 80 movies are better than most movies, to be honest.
Well, also, look, back then, those movies were not about special effects, visual effects, or it was just about good storytelling, and that's it. That's all it really was. Just
so you think this movie was like a really good story about leaving school and kind of.
It's not about leaving school.
That's what he took a day off from school and he broke
I know, but it's not about.
What is it about then?
No, you tell me.
It's a freaking coming of age. It's a coming of age story, as a lot of those 80s movies were a coming of age story.
But what was the coming of age?
Living life, exploring, all those things. Not skipping school and riding in a.
Okay, so let me ask you this question before we move on. Have you guys ever skipped school and done something like that?
Yeah, of course. Everybody did that.
Yeah.
You're like, nope, AMIT has never skipped.
No, I have. I've skipped school. I haven't broken rammed a Ferrari through a car or through a garage or anything.
Well, didn't do that.
I wouldn't say anything like that, but I definitely did things. I definitely did things as a kid that now, if that had circulated social media, it would have been horrible. It would have been horrible. I was never the guy doing like necessarily the bad things, but I was around when bad people were doing bad things. A lot of times I was trying to mitigate that. You know, I would try to like diffuse the situations, but there's only so much one person can do, especially when you're a kid and you do need some level of acceptance from a group and you don't want to stick out too much.
Yeah.
So,
all right,
wait, hold on. I'm glad you brought up the movie. No, share the screen because something's gonna. I'm glad you brought up the movie thing because I made a comment on Twitter about how well you understand movies, just like these kids do. So you see it, right?
Oh
yeah. Yes. What was this?
Let me play a little clip of how well AMIT understands movies of the 80s and 90s and maybe the 2000s, just like these kids understand rotary phones. Let's just play a couple of minutes. A minute.
Go ahead and lift up the box. You have 4 minutes to dial that phone number. That's it. With that phone.
Wait, so you have to push it. Right?
Kyle, move your butt over. I don't want your
I
butt.
can get 1 Bitcoin if you can do this.
It's all the way from here. Yeah. 7.
Yeah, this will be the final challenge on the next Ninja Warriors.
Look, he's like, how do you restart? he just restarted the phone.
Dude, we had one of these when I was younger.
I love how it's on a Harry Potter box.
I mean, like, you know, we find it so amusing, but yeah, technology moves kind of fast. And but this reminds me of you, like, learning about pop culture, which I grew up with Carlos in. Obviously, you know, that was our life,
Yeah.
and you know, you're learning about it
Dude,
now.
that makes sense. Wait.
Anyway, everyone
Yeah,
should
yeah,
watch
yeah,
this
yeah,
video.
yeah.
We don't have to watch this whole. This is hilarious. The whole thing is absolutely entertaining. Did they think the number? You only go a little bit of the way. So
They don't know. Yeah, they don't
to touch
understand.
the number, you got to touch the. Anyway, this
John
is
has a good point, but Vitaly, you don't know what a BBL was. So
You-
goes-
know,
How
you're
did you
right.
not?
You're
You
right.
didn't know what a BBL was. I'm
you
disappointed.
didn't
I
know what a
thought it
BBL was?
I'm
was.
really
I
disappointed.
thought it was a big
Really.
butt Latina. I thought that's what it meant.
Which is not a
But
bad, guess.
Okay, so I'll give you a hint.
That's
Your
what I
zero
thought.
is correct.
Anyway, so
Oh,
All right,
uh,
let's get to the Bitcoin charts. What do we got on? So Bitcoin's at 42K, right? We're doing it.
still?
It's doing its thing.
Yeah. I'll show
Vitaly,
this
you can
real
pull up the
quick.
charts and kind of walk us through where it's going.
Okay, before we go, it might still be at 42K, but when I posted that last night, here's the thing about Bitcoin trading 24/7 and trading
Well,
around
you
the
can go
world.
wide, and then we can go to the chart. No.
Okay, gotcha.
Here's the thing that's unlike stocks about Bitcoin trading all around the world 24/7. When we're sitting here and we're trading and we're essentially moving the market cap of crypto over here, half of the world is sleeping. So while you're sleeping, Bitcoin is still doing its thing around the world. And I was watching last night. We actually retested 37,000 in the middle of the night last night.
Wow, I didn't even know.
When did
Because
that happen?
I'm just telling you, I was looking at it. I was posting the $42,000 thing, and then about an hour later, I picked up the phone and it was still on Coinbase. And when I opened it up, it was 37,698. Like, this is incredible volatility that's happening. Because look, think about it. Like, if you're in Australia and you went to bed and it was like 39,000, and you wake up and it's 42, that creates it's another day of trading, right?
Yeah.
So that was interesting. And then when I went to bed finally and woke up again, it's back at 42,000, like it never happened. So if you just went to bed and woke up, you didn't realize that we had some massive volatility. As a matter of fact, when Bitcoin hit that peak in 2017, it was Christmas time, and it was the North Koreans that pumped it. And that happened at like 2:30 in the morning. And I remember being awake. It was like near Christmas time. And I'm like, oh my God. That's when I
They're
started.
allowed to buy Bitcoin in North Korea? Kim
I
Jong-un
guess so.
allows that?
I don't know if it was
I
like
don't know about that.
retail, but North Korea was buying,
I don't think.
buying it for sure.
Well, when you can't eat and you don't have any rice, I don't think you're worried about Bitcoin.
Or maybe you're the most worried about Bitcoin. At that
Yeah,
time.
I don't think so. But I want to share this
Okay.
chart, and I wish I was paying more attention to it. I look at it every 6 months or whatever. But the interesting thing about Bitcoin, and this is something we both follow, Carlos and I, Bob Lucas talks about, and some other people, about the 10-week moving average, that it shows the bullishness of Bitcoin. So if you look at the moving average over time, this purple line is the 10-week, that when we collapsed, right, from our 69,000, whatever, we went under the 10-week, we went a little bit above it, and then we collapsed again. And luckily, when we collapsed again, I was paying attention, and I did sell a bunch of Bitcoin at around this price. And then we continued to drop and drop. This point I was not paying attention to so much, but I was buying here when we went above the 10-week. And if you look up right now, we are way above the 10-week. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some pullback, like Carlos at 37, but I wouldn't be surprised we go down to like 34 and to test that again. And if we hold it, this is really important. If we actually hold the 10-week, as you could see in these bull runs, the 10-week is held. So this massive bull run, you could see it's holding the whole way up. So something to pay attention to, that if we are in the middle of this, that we have to support this, and 34 or 35 is approximately that. So it's very interesting that I wish I was paying more attention to it, because you would have been a buyer at this price right here at around 17,000, and you would have had a massive pop if you would have been paying attention to this 10-week.
If you saw that.
Right.
Well, also what looks interesting is, well, because Bitcoin is cyclical, you do start to see reoccurring patterns in the charts appear over and over and over again. Like, you can compare certain cycles to previous cycles, meaning, from the low to the high. And if you look even on that chart there, right at the end of 2020, what you can see is this is a weekly chart. You can just see a bunch of massive green candles that are all in succession that lead up to, from your bottom green line to the middle green line to the left.
So
and you can start to see that the chart is essentially reprinting that right there at the end of 2020.
At the end of 2020, you're talking about right here?
No, keep it a little further, right there. You see a succession of weekly candles after it broke out. And what we're drawing in this new section looks like the start of another massive run up. If you look at what happened in 2020 as a result of, at the end of 2020, leading into 2021. And we had that massive run up that eventually had that first peak around, what was that, February?
Are you
Right
guys
here? You're talking about
worried
here?
at all?
Yeah, this was March. As we were talking about here, March 2021.
But look where it started. It started in November, right? Go back. Where did that start? Where did that run
Look,
start when it
the
broke
important
out?
part that I want people to take away is that, yes, this 10-week, whenever we go above it and we hold it, we have massive runs, no matter what. If we collapse under it, we have massive drawdowns. So this bull run was amazing that you could have been just watching the 10-week, and as long as we didn't collapse, once it collapsed here, it still would have been a great time to sell. You know, even if you missed that second peak, you would have made just a shit ton of money if you would have sold there.
I got some stuff to show too. I don't have as
real quick. Is this on Bitcoin, Carlos?
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
you were asking, am I nervous or concerned? No.
Yeah, let's do that because Vitaly, or while Carlos is bringing up, can you get up the Enphase charts, Vitaly? Because we got to talk about Enphase, and I want to get your thoughts
Okay.
on that.
I also have another chart before we leave Bitcoin.
Okay.
Carlos, you have something, or should I?
Yeah, I do want to show it. This is the trading view chart of Bitcoin on the daily. Okay. And I've only really got, I'm only looking at this one. I erased a lot of my lines. All I'm really looking at is the bands. And if you look here right now, we have popped into this band here. And you can see that this band used to be, this band on the way down was resistance on the way down. This was our last, this was the last like local high that we had, which was somewhere around, where are we? Around $47,000. So you could technically say it's sort of clear skies until about $47,000. And that becomes the next real point that we need to break. So we can say that we've officially sort of retraced out of this, this massive bowl that we're in. So anywhere in here, I'm not worried. Anywhere here, I'm just looking to see what the price action is going to be to here. The other thing is, if you can bring up Vitaly's chart again, because he had the RSI. The RSI is through the fucking roof right now.
Yeah, it's shooting up. And this is the weekly, by the way. So this is even worse.
What is the RSI on the weekly? 70?
Or
80. Yeah, look, there might be a pullback, but I'm just pointing out, Amit, for your sake, not for anybody in the chat, that if I didn't have any Bitcoin, I would be a little bit like just worried. I would be DCAing in, and because if this 10-week does hold and it doesn't collapse, we're getting closer to the point where like it's going to go up, even if it has a pullback now. Like in my opinion, I have no Bitcoin. I personally would be DCAing and then buying heavier as it tanks. You know, it's getting to that point. Just like Carlos pointed out, just one other thing. We have very little resistance between now and $70,000, 69,000. It's very little. There is almost no resistance, in my opinion. There's a couple.
What do you define as resistance?
Well, you can see like where it stopped to take a breather, and maybe there's around 45 or so, 46. But honestly, it is not a lot. It didn't spend that much time in those areas anyway. So,
no, but let's say it gets to 46. Your argument is because nothing is stopping it, it could go to 69 easier.
Bitcoin has a thing that it just runs. And yeah, I could see that. I could see a scenario where that happens, especially with positive news for the macro.
If you just
see that absolutely happening. And any ETF mention, I think once again, any positive news, it pumps.
Even if you just go back here, share the other chart. I just want to go back in time a little bit, because look where we were. This was 2020. I mean, look how long we traded in this channel. We traded in here for 569 days. Amit, do you see this?
Yeah,
this is 569 days of price action that we were waiting to see.
That's where people thought Bitcoin was dead, right? Basically,
and this is what thought it was dead money. Now, 569 days is a long time. It's well over a year. So you're trading in this channel sideways, and the Fed had already printed a ton of money. But then if you look what happened once it broke that previous all-time high, I mean, we just had that first run up. That's when we had our first run up to, what was it, $40,000, and that happened around this time. It happened from November to what was that? To January, September to January. But we didn't break the all-time high until somewhere in December, which is like 17,000. So you can see right when we broke that all-time high. I mean, this is a massive run up and these are daily candles with virtually no days where it closed in the red. And then we started to have some pullbacks on our way back up. So now we go to what we're looking at right now. We just keep going a little further in time, and you look at where we are now. Same sort of deal. We're getting towards the end of a year. That was a post-halving year because it had halved earlier that year. But we are now waiting to see if it can retest its all-time high. And at least for what I'm looking at here, I'm just looking at these channels here because I can see that there was some resistance on the way down for 47,000. You can see even up here, it kind of ran up and it was bouncing around these levels. Then we shot up as there was essentially no sellers. And then when we came back down, this was the last level that we touched. And we haven't been back at this level since April of 2022. So we're now coming back to, I think, to retest that and see what that is. But again, my my sights are set much further out post halving. What happens after that post ETF announcement. Although to Bob's point, he thought we might have a left translated cycle this time, which means that the peak might actually come before.
I think he's changed that viewpoint at this point.
He's been saying that for a while. So I'm looking at either market cap or price targets, which brings me to my next chart. If you could share this, is the Bitcoin dominance. The Bitcoin dominance.
This one?
Yeah, this is the Bitcoin dominance chart. So this is essentially what percentage of crypto's total market cap is just Bitcoins. And so you can see when Bitcoin is pumping at the peaks, it's 72% of all the money in all of crypto is Bitcoin.
Wait, you can trade Bitcoin dominance?
No, Bitcoin dominance just tells you the ratio of the market cap. So what that means is like essentially if you like on Coinbase, you've got Ethereum and Cardano and whatnot. You could convert them. It's like converting from country currency. So I could say I want to take my Ethereum and convert it to Bitcoin, right? It's like a buy and a sell at the same time. So how much of crypto's total market cap is Bitcoin? And right now we're at 54%. So we've crossed over the 50% mark here, where now Bitcoin is more than half of the entire crypto dominance, right? But if you look at where we've been at some historical levels, look at this.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. I think now the consensus
96%.
is like the consensus is basically over 65%
It starts to
of
get
Bitcoin dominance is where we want to sort of hit, where you can sort of jump back hard into altcoins. Because at this point, if Bitcoin is still in the lead and taking over, altcoins will bleed against Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's better to be in Bitcoin than it is to be in altcoins. So I'm waiting till 65% dominance, at least 60% dominance.
Well, and Amit, just so you understand, this is when people say Bitcoin's run too far, right? If it usurps too much of the total market cap of crypto, this is when you say Ethereum is undervalued. Like it takes too many Ethereum to buy a Bitcoin. So this is one of the reasons why after you see that big blow off top when Bitcoin is 70% of the total crypto space, you start to see the altcoins pump, because basically there's only so much money to go around. And since Bitcoin's taken all of it, now people take profits, and then they're looking at these altcoins that are incredibly undervalued based on what their natural percentage of the total crypto space should be. And so we're now in a trend on the way up. The other thing that
what do you guys think about ETH? Are you buying ETH right now?
Yeah, so I actually have a chart for ETH. Let me.
I'm 75.25.
I'm glad
We are
I'm
in
glad
the
you brought it up.
coloring book today, baby. All right, let's do ETH and Enphase. We
Well,
gotta do
the
Enphase.
reason you bring up ETH is because ETH trades against, people are in both, obviously, and they go one for the other. So ETH at around, so this is a chart of ETH versus BTC. And a good point where at least I feel, and obviously some bigger crypto guys agree, that when ETH is around trading to BTC around 0.03, so here we are, roughly this support line, when it gets here, that's a good time to convert your Bitcoin to Ethereum, or just buy Ethereum, honestly. So
do you understand what that means? Do you understand what that means, Amit?
Do you understand what the chart is saying, Amit? So in case someone in the audience is lost.
This is a chart tracking. This is a chart tracking.
Sorry, I was muted. It's the correlation between Ethereum and Bitcoin, right? And like the ratio between how much. Yeah. Right.
How many Ethereum you need for a Bitcoin, basically.
Yeah. Like how many, like, did you know you can fit 1.3 billion Earths in the sun? So essentially this would be how many?
It's a million. It's a million.
No, it's a billion. Oh no, you're right. It is
1 million Hertz.
Okay.
Fun fact.
Anyway. So right now we're actually hitting
noted now.
Right now we hit some sort of support for Ethereum at 0.05, but if it sort of holds the history, we should see lower. There's no guarantee, but if Ethereum goes to around this 0.03, 0.04, it's probably a good time to start accumulating Ethereum, because then it will run against Bitcoin. And so that's how people trade these cryptocurrencies. I personally just use it as a way to buy more Ethereum or buy more Bitcoin, like that kind of thing, as opposed to selling out of any one for the other. I don't like doing that. I like both. I really do like both. And I think my portfolio is roughly 60-40 in terms of Bitcoin, Ethereum.
I'm 75-25. And to be clear, this is also how the whales make money, right? When they see that their Bitcoin position is too strong against Ethereum, that's one of the reasons why altcoins may sometimes pump out of nowhere, because they'll just start to convert some of that Bitcoin to Ethereum and start pumping that. People FOMO into that and start to basically play the ratios against each other. It's like manufacturing a dividend, a Bitcoin dividend.
Yeah.
All right. So you want to bring up Enphase?
Yes. So
Wait,
let's
before we go, we gotta look one more time. I gotta bring this up.
Oh, we got the leprechauns. Here we go.
It's a leprechaun. We gotta look at the rainbow chart. Well, the reason why the rainbow chart is good is because it gives you an idea of, depending on like where we are in Bitcoin's maturity as an asset class, and where that price point lands within the rainbow chart. That gives you an idea of like, are we starting to get, a sense that we're hitting a top? And as you can see, the curve is based, it's a logarithmic progression. So each time it's going to get flatter and flatter. And so you can see that in the previous cycles, right, we've actually come up into the red band. You see this? Like the previous Bitcoin peaks have hit the actual red band. But this last cycle, we didn't actually hit the red band. And this is one of the reasons why I think guys like me and Vitaly didn't sell. We'd be like, oh, we've still got to sort of touch that. But that was the first time that we didn't. Every other time that we saw the blow off peak, it was clearly in the red band. But now that we're starting to flatten out a little bit, you can see Bitcoin's price at around 67,000 was only in like the, what is it? There's serious sell or what is it? FOMO intensified.
We didn't take that serious sell as a serious sell.
Yeah, it wasn't in the maximum bubble territory just yet. So you can see what each of these colors mean.
Well,
right? Bubble, FOMO,
this is important because if you go 2 bands down, I think it was changing by 2 bands. What is 2 bands down from that?
2 bands down from the red. Like if you're in the red, it's maximum.
Well, no, the last how high it got, go 2 bands down from that.
Oh, 2 bands down.
And translate it over to the right.
Translated over to the, what do you mean, this way?
Yeah, so the 2 bands down. So you have the last time it got into like a little bit above the orange, right?
Oh, right. So what Vitaly is saying is the last time it was in this orange at a price of $47,000 for the maturity of the asset class, that was in the FOMO intensifies band. But now that we're here, if you look at where we are, say if we hit 47,000 again, because of the maturity of it, because of the maturity of the asset class that we now have more Bitcoins into the system, that is just either in the hodl or is this a bubble band? Does that make sense, Amit?
Yes.
That
question
hitting
becomes
that same price point as Bitcoin goes further and further in its maturity, and as more Bitcoins come on the market, is ranked differently. And so now there's a possibility that even if we see a higher price, and we could see a higher price than 60, let's just say the price that we're assuming would be somewhere, the price I'm assuming is somewhere around here. I'm assuming we're up somewhere around here when we finally hit the blow off peak, which would put us at, if you look, which would put us at, we would still only be in the FOMO intensifies, is this a bubble band? But we're still higher than before.
I want to give you the opposite. And into the cryptoverse, that guy says basically, we are not going to go that high anymore. So we might be into that orange band area, which would be 150,000. It would be like 150 grand. If you go a little bit out to 2024, 25, where do you go?
So what color are we in right now?
Right now
we're in green. You see, we're in green.
We're in the
and you might be like, oh, this is all like nonsense, but it's been following this for a good amount of time. So
okay, but red and blue make purple. So is there any correlation between like the top and the bottom of this? Like, no, I'm dead ass trying to figure out.
I'm laughing at.
No,
that's a heavily manipulated rainbow.
They could be using any arbitrary colors.
Yeah, this looks silly.
Wait, so what? The colors don't matter?
No, the colors mean
colors
blue is cold. Blue says basically a fire sale. So this is all considering on the sell side, but blue means that the crypto space is dead, that there's no activity. As you get to the green, you get into your buy and accumulate stones. Yellow would mean hold. It's neither bullish nor bearish. Then as you start getting into the orange and red, you're starting to say, okay, the sell pressure is getting crazy because
wait, so zoom out normally, Carlos. Now I finally understand why you guys show this fucking. So every time it gets to the top of the thing, it sells off. That's your point, right?
That's the point.
Yeah.
And this is the
like an
normal,
RSI, kind of.
It's not really, because the RSI can be high and the price can be low. But what this does is, honestly, this is standard logarithmic progression, exponential growth, right? This is just
they're using the peaks and they're using the bottoms, and they're drawing a chart based on that. And obviously the chart updates as we get more data. But so far it's been following in nicely, where if it's in the blue, you buy as much Bitcoin as you can.
Right.
When it's getting up towards the red, And the guy into the cryptocurrency, I think he's saying that we're not going to get to the red anymore. That's it. It's because we're not going as far down. We're not going to go as far up. So we're going to be somewhere in the orange when this peak is going to hit.
But that's the point, because as we go even further, this chart basically flattens out. We do no longer see those massive runs.
You don't see, right?
The curve starts to flatten out.
This might be the last big run. So let's say we get to 200,000. Okay, let's say we get there magically.
Yeah.
And then the next time, even after the crash, let's say it gets to 600,000, but that's a 3x. So the problem is like diminishing returns as it goes on.
Exactly. Right? But if you look at where we're at now, and we're at, what are we at? Where are we at right here? We're in the green, so we're in the $45,000.
Amit, are you texting your hose?
No, I'm not. I'm listening to you guys. I'm in a good playing class. Like I'm like, I don't know why the chat is staring at my fucking box. Look at the rainbow.
We've been showing this chart for a while, and you know, and the thing is, it's sort of magically good. If it was in the blue, you guys should have been buying. Like that's what this means.
But this is where I mean, this is where I should have started my DCA. But this is one of the reasons why I started that daily DCA. I just started buying $50 a day for, I have no idea how many days, just going and going and going, just picking up as I'm going along. And I'll probably keep going.
Why didn't you explain this to me when it was in the blue?
We did.
We have been explaining. Look, you know what it is?
Like a year ago.
I know that you joke about that, but here's the thing. There's sometimes a barrier of bias. There's a bias barrier that just says, I don't respect this as an asset class. And for different people, it's different things that finally break that barrier. We had the same thing when it was with Tesla. Some people were like, but electric cars have no range, but electric cars, they just did not consider them. At a certain point, it just sort of clicks and makes sense for people. And hopefully you can talk to your friends and it'll make sense somewhere down in the blue area where they can actually participate. I have a friend of mine who I was talking to about this in 2020 about Ethereum. It was bleeding so much against Bitcoin. And I was like, dude, I'm only going to say this once. I really think that it'd be great to pick up some Ethereum right now. He just so happened to start buying it in the week that it was like $250, $300, $400.
Yeah.
And then within like a day or two, it started shooting up and it shot up to $1,500, $2,000. He literally was able, and within 6 months, he turned $25,000 into over $250,000, sold his house, and was able to basically bankroll a move and upgrade his house. That doesn't happen for everyone. But a lot of that info is just by watching the charts. You're just like,
no, you're right. You're so right, dude. You know why you're so right on this, because okay, Robinhood is doing really well right now because of Bitcoin, and I really like that company. I think I understand this company just better than I understand a lot of companies. And I saw an option that on November 15th was at 38 cents a contract, and I was looking at it and I was just like, I know this is the contract to buy right now. And I just didn't go as heavy as I should have gone in. It's doubled in like the past week. And it's partly because of Bitcoin. Now, I couldn't have predicted the Bitcoin thing, but I did understand the valuation of Robinhood was stupid, that if there was a Bitcoin pump, they reported today 75% higher than last month's crypto trading volumes on Robinhood.
I saw you posted that on X, and I actually had a question. I didn't
mean, like, it's like Bitcoin pumps, bro, dude. Like, people think Robinhood's a meme brokerage. There's a lot of motherfuckers trading crypto on Robinhood.
But this is why these, what is it, PayPal, Robinhood, a lot of these other like traditionally securities exchanges adopting Bitcoin. This is one of the reasons why it was so bullish in 2020. Because maybe it took people a few years to get with the program, but now that we're not really having to legitimize Bitcoin as an asset class, Robinhood sort of memifying and making it gamifying the purchase of securities just makes it so easy. Like my Bitcoin,
and there's no fees. There's no fees like
that's
Coinbase.
what I was
Even though I know you don't own the Bitcoin, I get it, but like,
but still, that's what I was going to ask. If they're making money on the fees the way Coinbase is making money, because now people are starting to understand how Coinbase makes money on the buy and sell side. Every time you buy or sell, there's a fee, and they make money regardless. So all of this volatility is actually great for them because it means that there's just more activity happening. Yeah. So they're not making money on holding the Bitcoin. So how are they making money? Are they holding?
They're making money on cash sweep. The more money, like in November, $1.4 billion was deposited onto Robinhood. And 75% trading volumes over last month, October, which were up 92% year over year in October.
Right. So that's 100 and whatever the fuck percent.
I mean, dude, like Robinhood's trading at cash still at $10. So to me, it's just like
this is pumped to $10. That's it.
Well, it went down to $7. It went down to $7.93, and at that moment, I bought But this is when like I could have made a purchase even to trade it back up to 10. I was like, it's going back to 10 fucking dollars. It's not the story's not dead. It's just they had some regulation fee and then the market sold it off after their earnings. And this is so funny, bro. It goes into the stuff you're saying about Bitcoin. When Bitcoin fell, like in COVID to like $5,000 or whatever, you and Vitaly were looking at this shit just like, we know we're down, but we know the story's not done. People are just dumb and they're giving us an opportunity. And with Robinhood at $7.93, I was like, they would have been profitable if not for some stupid regulation. The market's stupid. And I'm looking at this. I should make a purchase. I should, take a risk here. And it's just so crazy because if you in your little room can recognize this risk, you can put some money in and turn it into a lot of money just by you seeing something other people don't. And that's what you guys did with crypto.
Bro, it took me about 2 weeks. And I mean, I was diligent every night for probably 6-7 hours.
That's what it takes.
Researching Bitcoin, just watching everything I can, reading every article, going back to the 2012, looking at the fucking white paper, like just really trying to figure this thing out. And this actually leads me to the topic that I wanted to discuss about some of the stuff that I was getting DM'd about, just about some of the stuff that we talk about here, where it's like, we can get sucked into always trying to find what's the new thing. And we can get sort of pigeonholed into feeling or conveying the idea that you might have missed it, right? That you've got to always be finding what the new thing is. There's really nothing that can guarantee you the types of returns the life-changing types of returns than finding a really good asset and building a massive share count or a massive position like Bitcoin. So it can be boring sometimes, but that's really the way to build like wealth. We talk about things like options and spreads and a bunch of ways that you can make some quick cash, but really the thing that's going to build that long-term wealth, where these little positions you have turn into like real assets, or when you build massive share counts and you have high six figures in them, that's when you really start to see your wealth grow. And the only way to do that is honestly sometimes just continuing to throw your money into this one stock or a crypto over and over and over. And this is one of the reasons why I feel like I've been successful the last few years, is because as much as I tried not to be distracted by the new shiny thing. And I spent all of 2020 accumulating as much Bitcoin as I possibly could in the $8,000-$9,000 range. Just every time, every job I could do, every side gig. And now it's something where I'm always in the green, and I haven't touched it for 4 years. So, even asking a question for the people in the chat, how many of you have positions that you're holding that are 4 years or older, 5 years? Or like, what's the position that you have? What's the longest that you have that you're holding any specific position in your portfolio? Is it over 5 years? Can you do a poll? Maybe 2, 5, 10 years. I'm curious to see, because
I'm gonna
real quick. Let me just say one thing, and then Vitaly, I'm gonna give it to you. What I agree with you so much, Carlos, is over the past couple weeks, I've literally been like obsessed with Robinhood, just listening to the earnings calls, all this stuff. And I'm like at 793, I'm like, this valuation cannot make sense. Just like you guys at 5,000-6,000 on Bitcoin. Like, this is stupid. It's just dumb. And I have an opportunity, and I have the capital because I freed up a lot of cash the past couple of weeks. Right. And I should have done it, and I just didn't. And I think what I'm learning here is like, dude, when there's an opportunity,
spreads. Is that right?
And I did, but I rolled them back into 2026, half of it. So I had, I had half it left. And I'm just like, this is dumb. Like this, like if you know something, I think the Stanley Druckenmiller quote, which is like, if you believe in something, don't go 100%, go 115 or whatever. Like, just when you believe in it, you've got to take that risk, because that's where you make real fucking money. And that's what you guys did with crypto. That doesn't mean go all in, obviously diversify, but so if you believe.
Yeah, remember, I'm going to caveat what Carlos said, because he's making it sound like we all went into Bitcoin straight up. Me and Carlos have houses, so we have other investments.
That's true.
Me and Carlos have Tesla stock, Enphase stock, other equities. Okay, obviously Bitcoin, Ethereum. So there's some diversification that happens. Me and him have different allocations to that diversification. But I just want to point out, none of us went all into Bitcoin, because if that was the case, I would have taken out a second mortgage and bought Bitcoin. You know what I mean?
What percentage of your net worth
did
you go into Bitcoin when you really went into Bitcoin?
I went in. Okay, so now you're bringing up 2016. I went all into Bitcoin.
Wait, really? What the fuck?
No, but that was a story. Remember, I suffered for. You forgot the whole story. I didn't.
No, I remember. You told me you were crying.
Held it.
Wait, can you? It's like
2018
people
was
haven't
one
heard
of
the
the
story.
Hold
Can
on.
you tell us the story from start to finish? Like what your experience was?
I'm going to make it shorter. I'm going to make it shorter.
Okay, make it shorter, but tell people, for those that don't know.
So hundreds of thousands of dollars. I won't say how much. but I went into a lot of crypto, okay, and shit coins, altcoins, everything. It was pumping like crazy. I was making money left and right. I thought I was going to leave 2017 just like a multi-millionaire. I thought that was going to happen. 2018 rolls around, okay? I didn't sell almost anything. 2018 rolls around. Whatever that was worth became worth like 5%, 4% of what that was worth. It was 95% down. No joke. 2018, 2019. And those are the toughest 2 years of my entire life because I did try to go all into that one thing. I still had real estate. Don't get me wrong. I didn't get rid of my real estate, but I wasn't into a lot of Tesla. Well, no, actually, at 2018, I started to buy a lot of Tesla, but still, that was like my side bet. It didn't take off. So that was failing too, by the way. If you remember, Tesla was going from $400 to $175. So I was losing on crypto and I was losing on Tesla.
Yeah.
So now I'm remembering. So anyway,
so you were getting like
creamed.
I was getting creamed. 2018,
Yeah.
2019, I literally, my portfolio went from like massive to like nothing. It was like all my equities, all my crypto was like just crashing. And I've learned a valuable lesson that I can't do that again. That's why when crypto came back, the good thing I did was I didn't sell. So this is what's important in all of this, that I still believed in Bitcoin. I still believed in Ethereum. I didn't sell that shit. Okay. I kept it and I cried for 2 years.
Wait, no. Hold on. Don't go past that part of the story. Explain the 2 years. Like, I don't want you to
Massive
be traumatized,
depression.
but like, what exactly? How did your wife take it? How are your kids? Like, how bad was it?
I mean, it's bad. It's bad when you like, it's like an addiction.
Like I should have
at that
married a
point.
Korean.
No, it's like an addiction because like you need to find out everything about your thesis because your thesis is failing, So 2018, right? Because Bitcoin crashed around 2018, 2019, you're just looking for any iota that you are not the stupidest person on earth. Okay.
Right.
Because you've basically lost.
You're looking for the chamath that sold you the snake oil.
Well, I wasn't looking to blame anybody, honestly. I wasn't blaming it except myself. I took a lot of blame for myself that I went so heavy into something and I was doing so well in it. And then it all collapsed. Okay. So
when you mean doing so well, how much percentage were you up on the best of the so well?
I mean,
like
hundreds, thousands, and some cryptos, altcoins were up thousands. I was buying altcoins too. They were just shooting off to the moon. I had Cardano at 8 cents. I had XRP at 20 cents. Those things went to $3. I don't know if you remember. So XRP went to $3. Cardano went to like $1.50, and I wasn't selling. I didn't sell almost any of it. I think I sold a little bit, like took $5,000 out, something stupid, but like nothing. I almost basically sold nothing. And then, of course, the massive crash and everything returns back to 8 cents and 20 cents or whatever it returned to. Bitcoin collapses, Ethereum collapses. I remember watching, and the thing is, I kept buying. So this is the weird part. Whatever money I would make during that time, I didn't actually stop buying. So it wasn't like I was sitting and watching it just from the side. Bitcoin was crashing. Okay, it's 10,000 now. Buy a little Bitcoin. Okay, it's 8,000 now. Buy a little bit more Bitcoin. It's 7,000. Buy 6,000. I just kept buying. At 4,000 was my last buy. I was like, I'm sick of buying Bitcoin. I hate you, Bitcoin. You suck. I'm literally going crazy, yelling on my screen that you fucking piece of shit. All you do is go down and so there was a lot of mental anguish. And that happened over 2 years. That wasn't like one day. It was like over 2 years. I was buying more and more Bitcoin and more Ethereum. I stopped buying the shit coins. At least that was a smart part of me. I never sold anything. And I held it till around 2021, was it? It's all becoming fuzzy now. But yes, I started selling crypto because I went through that and I never wanted to go through that again. So when Bitcoin was tanking under that 10-week, that 40,000 was a major signal to me. And I sold half of my Bitcoin immediately. And I sold half of my Ethereum immediately. And
that
then on the way down,
a good sell, right? That was a good sell.
Yeah,
because
I thought it was.
Went down again, right?
This level where we're at right now is the last and only Bitcoin sale.
So it was smart. It was because I finally learned my lesson that I don't need every single Bitcoin. I don't need every single Ethereum. I don't need every single Enphase. I don't need every single Tesla. These are lessons that are hard to learn, but you'll do fine. You'll do fine if you get rid of a portion of it, whatever that means to you. So I actually got rid of a lot of crypto. I made a ton of cash in crypto. So that's why I wasn't worried. As crypto was tanking, I was finally flush and I bought more 20,000 and under. I started buying again. because I did the right thing by selling it at 40. I didn't get the 69,000. I got the 40,000, you know?
The other
And
thing
I
to
started
consider,
buying again.
the other thing to consider too is, at least me, it wasn't until I really did, because I had some crypto. I bought some in 2017 at the beginning of the year. I just didn't have as much cash, and I didn't really understand it. I only knew it from when it first came out, and when Vitaly and I were trying to mine the stuff, which I probably have of like 4 Bitcoin that I had on a hard drive somewhere that I thought was worthless and got rid of it. I'm part of that, because I'm part of those that like burnt Bitcoins that are gone forever. They were on a hard drive, hardware key, and then I erased that computer and I sold it to someone. Those Bitcoins will never be sold that I had mined, you know, back in the day. I did not.
I have a lot of crypto I can't access. I just lost the keys. I have like 12,000 XRP sitting on a wallet. I forgot the password and I didn't write it down properly. So
You can't go. Wait, hold on. You can't just go to Home Depot, get a new set.
Wish.
No. So there is a real problem. If you forget your keys, yes,
It's
that is
over.
an issue. Chris mentioned that. Absolutely. But that was my fault. I mean, I didn't write it down properly. That's on me.
Trade-off. But that's the trade-off to having 100% protection, that if an exchange goes down, that you don't lose your Bitcoin.
Yep,
It's yours. It's like it turns that into physical gold. It's no different than having physical gold in a safe. If someone puts a gun to your head, they're going to take your gold away and it's gone. It's the same deal.
Yep.
But if you want to move $10 million, it's easier to move it on a thumb drive with Bitcoin than it is to move $10 million in gold. You don't need, guns. The thing is, though, I was buying it, did not really understand it as an asset class besides that. But when I really started to look at how the creator of Bitcoin built in these halving events to start limiting the supply and control the inflation rate, to force the price to go up at regular intervals, that's when it really started to make sense. And that's when I said, oh man,
So he forced his own pump, basically.
But he forced it, because if Bitcoin was released steadily, if every minute one Bitcoin came out, no matter what, if 1 minute every Bitcoin came out, then we would have this like sort of steady inflation rate, and then the price would just be volatile. It would be literally greater fool theory. But the idea that that you've made the reward for supporting the network the actual asset itself, and then you reduce that reward by half every 4 years, it builds in this natural sort of plateau in inflationary pressure. It builds in natural upwards pressure, and we've seen that. And you can see the peaks on the rainbow chart. You can see exactly what happens, and you can start to, with now that we have enough of these cycles, like 4 of them. I think we're in the 4th one now. 1, 2, 3, 4 would be the 5th. Now you've got enough data to start comparing previous cycles to each other, taking into account the difference in the market cap at that time. And so now we can understand. This is why we can look at the logarithmic progression and say we're probably not going to get into the red. Although Garcia posted something in the chat about the announcement of the Bitcoin ETFs. It might be something that could create an over-exaggerated pressure on the upside, because we have never had real institutions buying this asset. So we got to 69,000, and it was whatever institutions were like legally allowed by their boards or financial entities to purchase it, and a bunch of retail. If they give the signal to Wall Street that it's now okay, not only okay to buy Bitcoin, but that you should have some of it on your books, we've just never seen that sort of record level of inflows. The other thing is, did you see what I posted? That El Salvador is actually in the black now for the first time, and they're up like $3 billion on their position, and they were buying at 69. And they showed all of their purchases, their DCAs. They bought a shit ton of it when it was low. And the guy's like, we're not selling one, not selling any of them. And so you're starting to see that is something that brings great wealth to developing nations. As I was going back and forth with somebody who was like, the guy Amir, who was like talking about how, but what about the electricity uses? It takes something like, what is it, $10,000 or $20,000 of electricity to mine 1 Bitcoin. You say, yeah, but there's places in the world where energy is cheap, and it also incentivizes these companies towards green renewable energy, which is also.
I want to point out something from that. People keep forgetting that our banking system does run on energy. It's not free.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah. So all the banks, all the financial institutions, all the transactions, all of Visa, all of MasterCard, it runs on energy, people. I don't know. So everything runs on energy. That's the way that works. And that's the way the world works. And the thing is, Bitcoin can become greener as we get more solar energy. So there is a positive that happens at the end of this rainbow, if I'm to bring back the rainbow chart.
Mm-hmm.
But can you bring up comment 9 at 944 by Dat Nguyen? If I'm saying that right.
Eugen.
949. Oh, 649.
I'm definitely saying his name wrong. I'm sorry.
Oh, here we go. What I get out of Vitaly's story is that now is the time to trim or hedge a bit, guys. It's been a great year. Never hurt to take some profits.
So
No.
I do want to agree partially with this before others. I agree that if you've made a ton of money, there is nothing wrong with taking some profits or becoming whole and diversifying into something else. You don't need 100% of everything. I know people think that, but if any of these things are going to do what we think they're going to do, even Palantir, we're not expecting 2X's here. Am I right? So I understand we all want this escape velocity, but it's okay that if your thesis is wrong, you're not completely 100% in one thing. I know that sounds maybe counterintuitive, but I believe in 3 to 5 things that you're sort of splitting up your wealth into, because if one of them does go away, you're not out of the game. If one of them does go away and you're all in one thing, I'm sorry, you're out of the game, and it's going to take you a long time to recover. So if you're okay with that recovery, what I did with crypto was that recovery. I got lucky. 4 years later, it came back, but it could have gone terribly wrong. Okay. So,
but this goes back to what we say, that it's kind of built in that it will go back and it will drop 95% and then it will pump again, just because of that inflationary pressure. So
yeah, but at some point that will stop, and then people will still believe that will continue, and it will not continue.
But I think that's this cycle. I think this is the last time. Look, when you're in, it's a lot of money. $69,000 or $40,000 is a lot of money, but that is still an amount of money that's doable for someone. But once the purchase price of Bitcoin reaches the cost of a mortgage, and now you're looking at that level of purchase, the idea of owning a single Bitcoin is it just diminishes. You're going to have a lot less people that are actually what they call the whole coiners, that actually hold a single Bitcoin. And I think that's what we're going to see between this cycle and next cycle. That's one of the reasons why I'm trying to hold as much as I can. And I'm probably going to be completely out of the position, because I don't think that I'll ever be able to buy whole Bitcoins again without having had the profits from previous Bitcoins. So my idea is, like, if we sell out, whatever, it's $120,000, $150,000, we're going to come back down. What's 90% down from that? Probably back to 35, 40 grand. And that's going to be
why do you think it's going to come back down to?
It always does. It always does when there's those blow off tops.
If you look at that Bitcoin rainbow chart, you can probably see where it's going to go back down to.
Look at it. Let's look at it.
We can
I get it, but
look
it's
at
just
the
because
chart.
people are going to take their profits. That's why you think?
As soon as it gets into that oversold red, orange, whatever territory, wherever it actually decides to, that's it, capitulate, or everyone decides to capitulate, basically, then, if you go further out, then we can see roughly, 2 years from now. 2 years from now, where are we? 3 years.
If you just look, it always capitulates back down to the blue, to this low blue band. So if you go where we are right now and we go just 2 years out, then look where the blue is: 37,000, 49,000. You see it? I can't go any further out.
Okay, so 40, 50 grand.
But so you're looking at 2026, 37,000 in the low blue, or in the bottom, the second to last one, it would be 49 to 66,000. But that becomes the floor. That means you're never going to see a $10,000 Bitcoin again.
Yeah. So that chance we had at 15 grand.
Yeah.
I actually think that was probably the last time.
That was probably
grand.
It. Yeah. That was probably it.
Yeah.
All right, let's do Enphase.
So this leads to Enphase actually pretty well, because everyone's been giving me shit that Enphase is down. I understand, but you guys
hold on. Before we get into the charts, how do you feel that Enphase went to 72 and now it's up 40%? I mean, obviously still down significantly for the year from 180, but it's not at 70 anymore. Do you kind of feel like I told you so, kind of?
I think he feels like we should all hit the like button before he answers.
Yeah,
there we go.
If we don't hit the like button, then you're not going to like what he has to say.
I'm going to discuss the chart in a second, but this goes to the pain I went through for Bitcoin. I've been through other pain too, but that was actually the worst one. I've learned a big lesson in there, that if you have conviction in something, now once again, I'm not saying go all into it like I did and ruined my life for 4 years. I was a mess for 4 years. Me and Carlos actually did not talk because I did not want to talk to a single person for at least 2 of those years.
Did you talk to your kids at all?
Well, of course I'm going to talk. I mean, but I was depressed. It was a depression. It wasn't. I'm not depressed anymore, as you can tell. Okay. I was.
Wait. So what about your wife?
My mission is to depress other people now.
She lived with it. She didn't say you need help, you need professional help. She should have said that probably, but it was a serious depression.
It wasn't to the point where you were thinking of selling your house to pay for the mortgage. Or
no, see, the thing is, I was lucky. I do want to. This is actually important. I was lucky. I wasn't that dumb And I actually know a lot of dumb people who took out loans on Bitcoin because during 2017, I don't know if you remember, people were getting second mortgages on their house. I don't know if you guys discussed it with a lot of folks, but I did know people who took out mortgages, who took out loans, and they put it into Bitcoin at like $19,000. So the problem with that, this leveraged position, I never had a leveraged position. This is why it's important. It feels like we're fighting all the time, but we're not fighting. Okay. I've lived through not having a leveraged position, coming out the other end alive and 10xing. Okay. If you have a leveraged position and it goes against you, you are fucked. And a lot of people I know got totally damn screwed. They had to sell all their Bitcoin. They had to sell their goddamn houses. They had to get rid of their fancy cars. You can't afford shit when you got to put food on your table. I never did that. I was smart enough. I kept my real estate business separate. I never took out any more loans. That always made a profit. So that was making, I work as a cinematographer. I never took that money and just blew it on. I always made sure I could pay my mortgage. So even though I was all in, I wasn't leveraged at all. So this is actually.
So why were you depressed then? Because you weren't like.
If you see some massive number turn into like thousands of dollars, believe me, it's gonna be fucking painful.
Think about how you felt. Think about how you felt looking at those.
Thousands, maybe millions. It turned into like literally thousands, 10,000, 20. It was so crazy how fast it dropped too.
Better than zero, right?
Well, at that point, I was like, do I really sell? What's the point of selling Bitcoin?
Remember how you felt when you saw what Dogecoin Millionaire's position went down to? Like how you felt seeing how
I felt bad for Dogecoin Millionaire because I'm like
watching him.
Yeah.
And imagine if
he had 3 million go to like 60 grand or something.
So you have to go through that. You have to go through that pain to understand why you do not want to leverage almost at all. 5% of your portfolio, 3%. You do not want to play the leverage game because when it goes against you, your life is wrecked. And like, honestly, I probably needed professional help. I didn't get it. I probably needed an actual therapist. Some would say I still need one, but at least that was a different reason to need a therapist. So I just want to make that clear that this is why I'm always discussing this kind of topic, that people should not be over leveraged in this kind of things. It's very dangerous and you can be totally screwed. And then you screw your family up, you screw your kids up, whatever. It just becomes a whole nightmare that I personally never wanted to deal with that aspect of it. And I didn't luckily deal with messing up my family. So that's why my wife never felt the same pain that I did, because her world didn't change, but we went from being millionaires to being thousandaires. So
yeah.
Did you like take her out to dinner still? Or you were like, no, we can't go out to dinner?
Look, it became a lot less of, I didn't buy a pool. Okay. There was no Tesla car. But the smart thing I did, like I said, I believed in something. Conviction. This is where the next part of the Enphase story. I had conviction. I just kept buying. I just kept buying Bitcoin even as it fell down. I kept buying Ethereum even as it fell down. In fact, my last buy of Bitcoin was around 4,000. I still remember it. I remember yelling at the screen. I was buying Ethereum all the way to 100. Okay. And it went down to 80. And at 80, I didn't buy because at that point I had enough of fucking seeing Ethereum crash too. I was done. Tesla, like I said, was going to 175 roughly the same time. Everything was just collapsing on me all around me. At least that's what I thought. Like I still had a house. I still had food on the table, but it just felt like it was all collapsing in. But I never stopped buying. So I just kept buying and buying whenever I got cash and I worked and I got more money and I bought more because I didn't have anything extra. It was like whatever I made.
Basically, you thought the market didn't understand what you understand, essentially.
I still believed my narrative. And the way I kept telling my wife about my narrative, that this has to be true. Okay. This can't be a lie. I sounded like a crazy man for 2 years or 3 years. But then 4 years later, guess what? It did become true. And at that point, but I was smart enough at that point, like, I don't need all of this. Okay. I spent the 4 years struggling and it was hard. I don't need all of this. Let me sell it right now. This is collapsing. Let me just sell half. Let me sell half of this. Let me just get rid of it. And my only mistake was actually, I kept saying, was Tesla at over $1 trillion. I knew it was overvalued and I never sold a share. That was so stupid. And I know it's coming back to there, but that was so dumb not to take anything because I really made a lot in Tesla too. And I waited that time too. I put the effort in and I kept buying it as it was tanking. So I did all of that work, but then I didn't know how to get out of it. Right. Yeah. Or get half of it out of it. So this comes to Enphase. I made no mistakes in Enphase, by the way. I sold Enphase at the top. I took out a lot of money. I bought the shit that I needed. I paid for my lifestyle, etc., etc. I made no mistakes. And I've told people on every pod, don't buy Enphase at $300. We have multiple pods. You can go back in time. Do not buy it. I'm not buying it. I'm waiting for better prices. I'm waiting for under $200. Who knew it would go to $70? I had no idea. I thought it was like 110 was the lowest. But
113.
either way, these are opportunities now. So once again, I saw Bitcoin as an opportunity as it tanked, and it hurt. I bought. It hurt. Okay. Anything worthwhile is probably going to be painful. People have to learn that. It's not going to be great for you to buy something, an asset that you think is valuable, but that it's tanking on you. It's going to be painful. And it might be painful for longer than you can stand it. And that's why you don't want to be over leveraged. That was my only point, even in yesterday's discussion. You don't want to put you in a position where you have to sell that asset that you went through so much pain. Okay. Your heart hurt and you went through so much of it. And then you got to get rid of it because you're over leveraged. How shitty would that be?
Well, yeah, because then you have to watch it. Then you watch it run and you start to calculate what you would have had you have been able to hold the position.
But you don't have it because
right,
usually when there is so much pain,
yeah,
you sell it all. That's what happens.
Or you're forced to sell it. I mean, whether it's margin calls
Yep.
or whatever, you're forced to sell it. And that's the worst.
Yep,
I mean,
exactly. And a lot of people were in this Tesla margin call when it dropped to 100. We knew it would recover. It would go back into the 200s, but they still got margin call. That doesn't change anything. They still lost Tesla shares. They still got even the big guy on YouTube, what's his name, who made $11 million bucks? He got margin called.
Me, Kevin?
No, it wasn't me, Kevin. It was
not
the tall guy, who quit his job, who's on Twitter.
Jason DeBolt.
Jason DeBolt. Even he got margin called.
Yeah.
So even he had to sell Tesla shares. I'm saying the smartest people who were there early are still making these silly mistakes of going into debt, being leveraged, having too many option plays, all of these things. And I'm just saying, just chill for your own benefit. Not as any contradiction to anybody else. We're all friends here, by the way. It's only about the well-being, the mental well-being of not being in that position in a couple of years and holding through the pain, because Tesla's going to have this pain for years and years. It's not just going to be a straight moonshot. It's going to be a lot of rocky roads, and Palantir is going to have a lot of rocky roads, and Enphase is going to have a lot of rocky roads.
No, that's a really good point, because when Palantir was at 21, everyone's like, oh, I missed my shot. I'm like, dude, like just seeing what you guys deal with Tesla, like shit comes back down to earth and then goes back to the moon and comes back. Like it's just part of the process. And eventually after 10 years, hopefully you made some money.
That's what high market cap does. High market cap makes it harder to get the percent losses, even if the stock price. If Apple moves 5%, it's like a $2 in the stock price.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's a 5% but that's what you want. Eventually, those high market caps are what makes these stocks act like a store of value.
Okay, so I think the chart is the last thing.
Yeah, I got a jet.
It's the least important thing, honestly. We went to $70.
Did you buy?
Yeah, I was buying, and in fact, I finally got.
How much?
Well, you know what? I didn't go crazy. I didn't go ham because look, I have a lot of shares. So if Enphase does what I keep saying it's going to do, I will be absolutely fine. It is my retirement.
Let me ask you a question. At 70, rough estimate, were you actually red on all of your shares if you average them out? Or
I was still in the green. Do you know why I was in the green?
Because you're buying in 2020.
Well, that's one reason. But the main reason was I sold a lot of it at $300. So what happens is your average just totally drops, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
So let's say I put in 100 grand and I bought it all at 70, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It goes to $300 and I get back my 100 grand.
Oh,
What is my cost basis?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
My cost basis is zero.
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. It's house money, right? Yeah, you're right.
My cost basis was basically zero. It's more now because I was buying at 200 and under, so I'm raising my cost basis. But pools aren't free, okay? So I'm saying I took a lot of money out of Enphase. I took a lot of money out of Bitcoin and Ethereum. The only thing I didn't do was take it out of Tesla, which really hurts me still to this day. So I know next time Tesla runs, I will be taking out of Tesla. So anyway, but to talk about the chart for a second, we touched, which is amazing. So this is like the long-term trend of Enphase. If I go back, let me just show the monthly real quick, and then we could end the pod. This is like the long-term trend, I feel, where it's sort of following this. Obviously, it tanked during this point where it could have been bankrupt over here, but it got back in and it stayed in it for a while until we hit some peak. And now we're coming up to a critical point to see if we break this trend. So let's come a little closer now. So this is interesting because we are still in a downtrend. So this is why I'm not super excited on not jumping for joy. Enphase is up 30, 40%, big deal, because we are still at a critical juncture where I feel until April 2024 or May, somewhere around there, we will know what happens to Enphase, whether they can escape this or not. And if they don't escape it, I mean, what's the bottom? Honestly, I think it's $60, $50. I don't think we're that far from the bottom. So I'm not selling anything. I'm not getting rid of anything. In fact, I'm only buying more Enphase. In fact, I bought a lot more at 90. I bought more at 100. I sort of slowed down right now, but I bought even for my kids. My kids each have 100 shares now in their account. I never thought I'd get them 100 shares. They each have 100 shares each now. So there's all these positives that happen when something you have conviction in tanks. It's not all negative that, oh no, I have paper losses because I never took them out. They weren't real gains and they aren't real losses yet. You know what I'm saying? Right. So anyway, so this is an important point. So if anyone doesn't want to jump into Enphase and they're scared, that's cool because I think you're fine. You can probably wait until March, April, if that's like the time period where we find out what happens. And if it tanks, congratulations. You probably caught the bottom at $50, $60. That's going to happen. All right. And if it doesn't, we're going to $200. Okay. So my bet is probably I'm closer enough to the bottom where I will just keep DCAing slowly. I don't need to go ham in because I already have a lot of shares. And I think at some point we return back to the mean, which is around $200. There's a lot of tremendous resistance here and also support. So we'll see. First, it'll butt up against it. And all these shares that I'm buying, guess what I'll be doing at $200 when everybody told me it's not returning? I'll be selling some Enphase at $200 because I already bought a bunch more that is only meant to sell right now. Okay. Long-term position intact. That's being held. Short-term position that I have accumulated in the recent time will be sold, and that'll fund my lifestyle continuously. And I'll keep doing that because Enphase likes to run, it likes to tank, likes to run, likes to tank, and it's going to keep doing that probably for years. So,
okay, that's fair. Yeah, both you guys. I mean, 70, 80, 90. You guys. I don't think any of us expected it to run 40% in a month, but I think the market decided it got stupid at $10 billion. Right.
Yep.
Right.
I picked up a little bit as it hit when under 100 for the same reason. I'm like, it's a pretty easy double, right?
Yeah.
It's like just putting the money in, saying in 6 months, a year, whatever, I'm going to get that money back. But I am returning back to what worked for me in 2020 is when I ignored everything else and said, what is the thing that I think is going to work, right? This is why I'm doing the daily DCA into Bitcoin. Started up a couple of positions and other things, but for the most part, it's just been that and accumulating Tesla shares. And this goes back to like the original point that I was saying, where I was getting some DMs on Twitter about like what the channel is about and like how the fact that we need to entertain there could be a tendency there to always try to find what's the new thing, but in reality, what everyone is saying, what works is finding really good companies, being early and being right and being early, and then just honestly the boring part of just buying as many shares as you can whenever you can. Most of the wealthy individuals that I know got there with less than 10 positions, just massive counts in a few positions. Some of them are dividend plays, like some of them are companies that pay dividends, like a Microsoft or an Apple, where it will naturally help increase, or companies that do buybacks on a regular basis. But still, the point is just having, say, sub 10 positions and having big share counts in those positions is probably the fastest way to give you that growth. So a lot of people will say, oh man, you talk about the same few stocks over and over and over. I want to hear what the new thing is. But for young people that are investing, you can make some money that way, but that's not necessarily the way to build true wealth. And as boring as it sounds, that's actually what we're doing. I don't think we're trying to make a finance channel more than we are just a bunch of guys that would have these conversations anyway and just posting them on YouTube. So it's not like we're telling anyone to do any one thing. And if you find it entertaining, that's cool, but it's not like we're trying to entertain by saying, here's the next company that's going to 10X, or 20X, because what that sets up the expectation is that you can skip the hard work, right?
Research. Yeah.
And there was a great thing with Snoop Dogg about that, where they asked him like what was successful. And he's like, everybody wants to skip the part where you do the hard work. Everyone wants to just skip that. There was a whole thing on what's his name? From Oculus. What's his name? The owner?
Palmer Luckey
had an interview yesterday. He was talking about the number one thing that children, the number one profession that children aspire to in 1970 was to be an astronaut, right? And that ushered in a generation of super alpha males that were killing in physics and in math and in science for like 30 years, right? Now the number one profession that kids want to get into is social
Be a
media
YouTuber.
influencer or a YouTuber.
Yeah.
And so we have this idea that like you can just
What do you think Amit wants to do?
and admit like yeah, those
Like, dude,
people-
I'm meant to be a YouTuber. I don't give a fuck what
Amit's
that guy
like, those
said, bro.
people
I
need to
like
go get a
YouTube.
job.
Yo, in the morning open, bro. That's what I was called to do. That shit. I need to.
No,
be
but
doing
here's
it.
the difference. But here's the difference. You're I think you would be doing it anyway if you had half the subs.
Yes, I'll do it if
So
40
it's
people sign
not
up, bro.
so
I love it. I
you're
just
putting
fucking
in the
love
hard work. Like there's a difference between the person that wants to start a channel, have 10,000 subs, and be making $5,000 a month overnight versus the guy who's like Mr. Beast or Marcus Brownlee, who just start
Who just
making
love it.
videos on what
Love
they're
it,
interested
yeah.
in and build a slow organic following. And if you look at that, building a slow organic following that slowly become monetized is that slow growth that you expect from any company that eventually deserves to be a behemoth in your portfolio, right? So
Yeah.
say it's the same sort of deal. So you're doing it the right way, but it is funny that you're one of those guys in your fucking Clockwork Orange suit. Yeah, and if you would totally do OnlyFans. You totally would. And don't give me any ideas. Anyway,
Yeah,
guys, I got a jet and go work 12 hours to make that money to put into.
Yeah, I'm gonna be up late tonight as well. All right, guys. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Rango.
We'll be back tomorrow 9 p.m. Hope you guys enjoyed the discussion of Vitaly's personal stories. Hope you guys found some insights in that. See you guys tomorrow. Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye. Good night.